Absolutely fascinating line at the end of the parak on today's Daf Yomi that refers back to the Mishnah that says that it's possible for a mamzer to be the one who is responsible for his grandmother being able to eat truma, and a Kohen Gadol who's the one who's responsible for his grandmother not being able to eat truma. And it's very simple. If a non-Kohen woman gets married to a Kohen man, and then he winds up dying, but they have a grandchild from their child who's a mamzer, since she still has a descendant from her Kohen husband, who's no longer alive, she can still eat truma. However, the opposite is also possible. If a Kohen, meaning the daughter of a Kohen woman, gets married to a non-Kohen man, a regular Yisrael or a Levi, and then he winds up dying, and then they have a daughter who obviously is not a Bas Kohen because her father was a regular Yisrael, she gets married to a Kohen. And then they have a child who's obviously a Kohen because his father's a Kohen. And one day he gets appointed Kohen Gadol, and he's still alive. Because of him, his grandmother, who was, remember, the daughter of a Kohen, but married to a non-Kohen, cannot eat Truma because she still has a descendant from her non-Kohen husband. So it's a fascinating thing. You could have a mamzer who's responsible that his grandmother could continue to eat Truma, and a Kohen Gadol who's responsible that his grandmother cannot eat Truma. And about this, the Gemara says, I should be the atonement of the son of my daughter, who's like a very cheap, inexpensive, practically worthless utensil, because he's causing me to be able to eat truma. And and I should not be the atonement of the son of my daughter, even though he's like an expensive, valuable jug, a very worthwhile thing, Kohen Gadol, because he's causing me to not be able to eat truma. You know, it's a fascinating thing in life. Sometimes you can have a situation that at first glance looks like it's terrible. This lady has a grandson who's a mamzer. I mean, by any yardstick, that's an awful, awful situation. And if you look on the other side, this woman who has a grandson who's a Kohen Gadol, I mean, by any yardstick, that's an incredibly wonderful situation. What amazing, a mother's Yiddish, a grandmother's Yiddish, a nachas, it's unbelievable. Her grandson became a Kohen Gadol, and yet sometimes that which looks like it's the worst scenario possible can actually wind up being a piece in the puzzle that leads to something great and amazing. And this is very similar to the way elsewhere the Mishnah says that if you have a mamzer who's a Talmud Chacham, and a Kohen Gadol is an Amaretz, which one takes precedence? Which one is be'emes considered more chashuv? The mamzer Talmud Chacham. And you could have something that looks amazing, it's wonderful. My grandson is a Kohen Gadol. And yet, look, it could wind up being a piece in the puzzle to bring about something less than desirable. I once heard official Shachter say on a shir that Dun had one son, and he was handicapped. He was deaf. Can you imagine? All of his brothers, he's one of the 12 Shvatim, they're all having lots of children. He has one child, and that child is deaf. That child is handicapped. And yet, if you fast forward, what happens? The Shevet of Dan becomes one of the largest Shvatim in the Jewish people. By the way, another riddle, giving away so many riddles today. If you want to ask someone a riddle, which one of Yaakov Avinu's sons had the most progeny, at least recorded in the Torah, the answer is not Yehuda. The answer is, if I remember correctly, Yosef. Because if you add up Ephraim and Menashe together, it's even more than Yehuda. Be that as it may be, Dan became one of the biggest Shvatim from that one handicapped deaf son. And of course, we all know that great story about chopping off Esav's head. It's a story for another time. But the point is, a lot of times in life, we see things in front of our eyes that look like it's the worst thing that could be. Look like this is a disaster. We're finished. How are we going to live through this? And yet, the Ribbon Shalom, who's putting all the puzzle pieces together, all of those puzzle pieces together, might be saying, no. You have no idea what's going on over here. I'm putting all the pieces where they need to be so that ultimately the outcome that needs to come, which is of course the Geula Shleima La'aseh, but everybody has their own individual Geula and minor Geulas along the way as well, is going to happen. So let's remember that the next time we see something that we immediately assume is automatically good or automatically bad, and remember that there's a Ribbon Shalom who's putting all the pieces together where they need to be. Have a great day.